And welcome to everyone, all our friends joining online to our Sunday satsang. Our topic today, introspection, is what I want to talk about. Introspection, sometimes we talk about it in a casual way that, okay, let's do some introspection, let's take a pen and paper, write down our thoughts, and let's introspect, and that's fine. But as we were reading in this reading, Swamiji raises the bar of introspection and what he really calls introspection, which I'll repeat in just a moment. But I was thinking that, before we come to even introspection, before we can introspect, there has to be the willingness or the desire to introspect. Because often in life, even on the spiritual path, we can sometimes go forward just a little haphazardly and not really thinking about some of our deeper tendencies. Why do I act in this way? Why do I behave in this way? What are the things really keeping me from progressing further? So there has to be the willingness and the desire to change, and I think it comes only at a certain point. And I was thinking, why is that the desire doesn't come, so quickly? Because Swamiji says here in this reading, he says, introspection means to behold oneself from a center of inner calmness without the slightest mental bias. Now, is that easy? Seeing ourselves without the slightest mental bias. I started thinking, who does introspect really as per this definition? Maybe very, very few people, because it's not easy to see ourselves for what we are without the slightest mental bias. And I was thinking, well, that's why the desire doesn't come to introspect in the first place. Because, who wants to, when we really begin looking inside ourselves, we find all sorts of things. A lot of things are not pretty. A lot of things are, to be very straightforward, junk. And, there are dark areas and dark regions, and we get scared. And who likes junk? It's like if we drop a little sabji or some coffee on our kurta, a little stain even, we get frantic, isn't it? Oh, let's quickly wash it off. Where's the Surf Excel? Bring me some water. Just trying to get that one little stain out, because we know it's not pleasant. No one likes to look dirty. And so naturally, we start the inner work and we find this thing and that piece of junk and all sorts of stains, smelly ones, ugly looking ones, and it's not a pretty picture. And that's why, we so often don't do this kind of introspection that Swamiji is talking about. Seeing ourselves without the slightest mental bias, which is not easy. That talk we heard of Swamiji, I hope you all enjoyed it. It was a very, very beautiful talk. I picked it for a couple of reasons. One, because it's so beautiful and just had some very deep points for all of us. And what happens is I've found on the path, which you must have found also, that when that desire, when the willingness to introspect really begins to come up, we say, okay, I guess I have things to work on. Show me, God, what are those things I need to work on? Give me hints. Then really, the Guru says, okay, I can work with you, like Swamiji was saying in that talk. If you're willing to give yourself to him, very important lines, then he says, Master doesn't mind what you have to go through. Little scary, some strong medicine, but he says he doesn't mind what you have to go through, so long in the end, it brings you absolute bliss. So when we begin to say, okay, I am willing to see what those things are, then we begin to attract. It could be a talk like that. It could be something from one of the Guru's writings. It could be a phrase. It could be a sentence. And hasn't it happened we sometimes resonate with a particular phrase, a particular paragraph, a particular something, or a talk we hear. And that resonance happens because I think on a soul level, we know, oh, it's something I need maybe to learn. That's why it sticks for us, maybe not so much for other people. It sticks because like, okay, maybe that's something I need to learn, something I need to work upon. And so I also shared this talk because one of my seclusions when, I took 6-7 days, once a year, twice a year, Master recommends, try to take time out, be by yourself, go deep. So I just chanced upon this talk of Swamiji just before the seclusion, and I, like I said, had a resonance. I said, wow, that's a lot of juice in this talk, a lot of things to think about, meditate upon. And I said, okay, I'm going to keep this as the theme of the seclusion for the next 6-7 days. And I said, okay, day one, I heard the talk, and I was like, okay, now I really want to introspect about this. What does this really mean for me? What can I do about it? And then the next moment, the thought came in the seclusion, okay, let me have some chai. So I got up and I made myself a chai. I said, okay, let's come back. We need to introspect about this very deep passage that Swamiji read out. Okay, let's hear it again. And after a few minutes, very nice. Okay, let's go for a walk. And again, this started to happen. And I don't know if this is your experience also. But this was really what I was telling you. One part of my mind, the soul, really wanted to change. But then the other part, which is the ego, it doesn't want anything to do with change. It doesn't want to see what are all these things inside which need changing. And it was in that seclusion, I maybe heard this talk 50 times, 70 times. I lost count after a while. But I just kept going. Because I was like, until you get it, we are not getting out of this exercise. So I every day kept listening to it. And, because there is a difference I've learned over time between hearing something and really listening to it. Do we know if there's a difference? Hearing something, we heard that talk, but listening to it. And there's a difference between reading something and understanding it. And so I was hearing the talk 20, 30, 40 times, but I wasn't listening, or I should say the mind wasn't listening, wasn't willing to listen. And I said, okay, we are here, we're not going anywhere till we understand. And just that effort, the deeper you go, I found deeper and deeper and deeper things began to emerge. And tendencies which were not even related to the talk, but faults, tendencies, somehow by just attuning myself and being willing to open myself came out. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. And where did that come from? And so that is just the power of introspection. And I'm sure if you haven't tried something like this, just be a little adventurous sometimes and take that one talk, take that little passage, rather than bolting through many, which all of us do many times. And see, what that might do for you as well. There is one other thing in this reading that Swamiji says. He also says that introspection means referring what one sees to the superconscious mind and detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. Detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. Now I was thinking, we all want guidance. Naturally, as truth seekers, devotees, we're like, okay, we want true guidance, we want clarity, we are faced often with dilemmas in life. Should I do this? Should I do that? We pray maybe ardently, God, what is it? Am I supposed to do this or that? What is your will? But Swami gives the condition. He says the guidance comes, can come, will come, but it has to be detachedly. There has to be detachment. So it reminded me of a story of a devotee many years ago when Swami Kriyanandaji was in the body. And this devotee one time was faced with a dilemma, and a serious dilemma. She had two options before her, and she wanted to choose whether should I do this or should I do that. And she said she prayed a lot to God and Master, but she didn't receive any answer. So she said, okay, let me go see Swamiji and let me ask him. So, Swamiji was in his home. He was sitting on the couch. She came and just sat by him. And she said, Swamiji, why is it, or she just in exasperation, and I think she started sobbing, she said, it's so hard to know God's will, Swamiji. And Swamiji was sitting, he just looked her in the eye calmly, and he said, no, it's not. And that's all. He didn't say anything else. And after a while, she was like, that's it, I came with this problem and I still have the problem, and he hasn't told me anything or asked me what is my problem. And she said, okay. So she just wiped her tears and she got up and she left the room and she started walking back home. And then she thought, it's hard for me. Maybe it's not hard for him, but it is hard for me. And then she prayed. She said, why is it so hard for me? And she said instantly the answer came to her. And the answer was, because you do not want to know. And that was a strange answer. Because you do not want to know. And the second part was, you're afraid that God's will contradict other desires in your heart. And such an interesting answer, no? But so true. When I heard it, I was like, that makes sense. Because so often in life, we all go through this challenge. We want guidance, but we color that guidance. We block that guidance with our own desires. So we say, okay, God, should I have butterscotch ice cream or should I have vanilla ice cream? Please tell me, I really love you, I want to do your will, butterscotch or vanilla. And of course, this is a symbol for our own lives. But don't we see what we are already doing? We are giving God two clear options, and we forget that there could be a third option. God may say, I want you to have strawberry today. Or he might say, today is not a good day for ice cream.
Oh, no.
Right? But when we get so worked up sometimes about these things in our life, we forget. And really, it's good to remind ourselves, do I really want to know God's will? Do I really want to know God's will? And on some level we do, and I have found this also in my own life. On some level we do, but on other levels we don't. Because there is fear. There is also fear. What will God ask me? What if he asks me, what is option 3? I don't know. It's an unknown thing. What if God asks me to do something which is totally out of my realm of experience? And that fear actually subconsciously prevents us from getting that clear answer. And so this devotee said, just in closing that story, that episode, she said something important. She said, clarity of mind, I have understood, comes with courage of heart. Very important. Clarity of mind comes with the courage of the heart. And Swamiji would often say, he says, when we teach meditation, we often say, in meditation we have to calm the mind. But Swamiji said, no, we actually have to calm the heart. And we often don't teach this in the beginning first class. But he said it's true, because as long as the heart's feelings are disturbed, the mind is always going to be disturbed. And so he says, calm the heart, calm the feelings of the heart, and you will be able to get the guidance that you want. But that is not easy, because that is, doing hand-to-hand combat often with our desires themselves. Do we want to know? Do we want God to really tell us what we want to do? So it takes courage. It takes courage. And I have found in my own life, I'll just share a few closing thoughts, that when these kind of dilemmas come, it's useless to fight and just put ourselves through the agony. Should I do this? Should I do that? What does God want? We ask 10 people, what do you think God wants me to do? We can go to different things, different sources, but I've really found the answer, like Swamiji said, is love. And what he means by that is that go beyond the agitation of the heart and just focus on your devotion and your love for God, and build that courage of heart, which comes by saying, like he was saying in the talk, are you willing to give yourself up to God? And having the faith, thinking about it, doesn't God really want the best for me? It is, but then we get afraid. But what will that best mean? What are those things? Might he ask me to do this or that? So it takes courage. And I have found, for example, in the beginning of a meditation, often, Swamiji would say this for years. He would, when he was in the body, and I heard it for years, but it was again one of those things you hear, but you're not listening. You never practice it, until when I did really practice it. And he would often say, he said, visualize your heart as a lotus in his talks. He would say, visualize the lotus opening and feel the petals opening towards the Guru, towards God. And what I started practicing some time back was before sitting to meditate, before even doing Hong So, just sitting, becoming aware of the heart, and feeling that one of the masters, maybe it's Yogananda ji, just touching the heart and feeling, and you can visualize it, you can even do it, you can feel it, but feel that with that touch, he's first of all calming your heart. And if you feel it, I've seen it works. And you can mentally do a japa at that moment. I love you, Guru, or with all my heart I choose thy love, whatever it might be. But take a few minutes first just to do that before you get into any of the techniques or any of that. And I have found that when you can find that kind of stillness in the heart, meditation is just effortless. After that, it's just very easy to go deep in meditation. And so that's one of the ways that we can get that courage of heart, is to trust more and more the Guru. It is not often easy, but start with love, and when that love rises, comes to the spiritual eye, automatically clarity of mind comes. And sometimes I've seen, I beat myself later, what was I doing? Why was I so confused? Why was I just putting myself through so much agony? All I had to do was just open myself up to the Guru, open my heart up to God, and in that the clarity comes. So, some things to just keep in mind for all of us, and like Swamiji said, I'll just repeat again. Introspection means to behold oneself from a center of inner calmness, without the slightest mental bias. But again, like I was saying, the slightest mental bias can only go away without the slightest emotional bias, first of all. Because the mind follows the heart, as we all know in the yoga teachings. So rather than trying to mentally pull apart our mind and keep our bias, away, we try to open ourselves in the heart. And that, when we have done, helps us. And then, like he says, we may see many unpleasant things in ourselves. We will see many unpleasant things in ourselves, but you don't excuse them, but neither do you condemn them. You accept responsibility. Okay, this is the little junkyard I have to clean up. I have been assigned the responsibility. It's not me, because we don't identify with them, because that will not be helpful. But this is what I have to clean up. I am very happy to, willing to do it. Swamiji would often say, he says, when you find a new fault in yourself, you discover something, he said that should be the time for congratulating yourself. That, okay, this thing was always inside me, but I just wasn't aware of it. And so now I've become aware of something like this, and now I can finally, like the affirmation says, change it, work, accept it, face it, and then change it and work on it. Okay, so thank you everyone. And let's just for a moment close our eyes. Just again feeling for a moment. Bring your awareness to your heart. See if you can feel a growing calmness there. And see if for a moment you can feel the Guru's hand upon your heart, reaching forward, touching you, and with that touch dissolving all other desires and bringing to you his love. And you can repeat mentally with deep feeling, with all my heart I choose thy love. I choose only thee. With all my heart I choose thy love. I choose only thee. And let's inwardly resolve to choose this response as we go through life. And as we have to make choices, let's lead with love. And let's let that love develop our courage to open ourselves even more every day to God and Guru. Om.